Trash Wars, the Impmon Strikes Back, is a deck that is a race between you and your opponent when it comes to getting your trash filled with more cards. With the release of the Beelzemon starter deck and pre-release this past weekend, Beelzemon players are quickly gathering all their resources together to optimize their deck. I've extensively played this variant, and BT12 makes so many changes from starter deck 14. As usual, I'll be going over the card by card, the strengths, the weaknesses, and the combos. This deck runs 4 level 2s, 13 level 3s, 9 level 4s, 6 level 5s, 7 level 6s, 1 level 7, 10 option cards, and 4 Tamers. For level 2s, this variant of the deck runs Pagumon from the 6th starter deck. On deletion, trash the top 2 cards of your deck. This variant of the deck is looking to maximize ways to trash your cards, and because I have a higher rookie count than normal, this is the best egg to utilize, especially in conjunction with BT2 Impmon. Substitution-wise, you could use Yamon, which has a when attacking effect that trashes the top 2 cards if your Digimon has Wizard or a Demon Lord trait. Because I have a focus on wider building than a linear stack, I don't use this egg. You could, but I choose not to. Level 3 wise, this deck runs purely Impmons. While there is a single copy of Impmon X, this card could be multiple copies if you're going for a more traditional stack building deck. Keep in mind, the effect for this Digimon is also mandatory. But on play, and when Digivolving, you can trash one option card to return one Digimon with Evil, Wizard, or Demon Lord in its traits from trash to hand. There are many options you could trash, some better than others. But Impmon wise, I run the mandatory 4 of BT2 for its on deletion effect to trash 3 cards. 4 EX2 Impmon for searching for Beelzemon and Ian Mako. But also, if it is trashed, you may trash up to 3 cards. This is an amazing facilitator of the trash in that it's not only optional, but gives you the chance to choose 1, 2, or 3 cards. And finally, the starter deck Impmon is one of your alternative ways to set up your win condition. Substitution-wise, you may notice I do not run Floodgates for any other deck. Honestly, you trash so often that you're going to lose them before you use them. As for counterfloods against you, starter deck 14 Impmon has you covered. But the magic starts to show with your level 4 lineup. While you're doing some chip damage with your Impmons and hopefully setting up trash, your level 4s build up into your big bad as well. Wizardmon X can help you trash and provide you some defense with Blocker. Promo Wizardmon, when trashed, can gain you memory and also set up the top card of your deck when you attack. As for Witchmon, when you Digivolve into her, you trash the top 3 cards. Trashing Impmons can further facilitate the trash or recover memory through other Digimon like Wizardmon or other option cards. You could reduce other areas to increase your potential level 4s. Personally, I think if your focus is the trash, you'll want to move more towards your Wizardmon X. But if you're scared of not having the DP, Witchmon is the direction to go. Level 5 wise, this deck runs 4 starter deck 14 Beelzemon and 2 Beelzemon X antibody. Beelzemon X has a conditional effect where when you Digivolve, you can return 1 X antibody from your trash to hand. Also when Digivolving, you trash the top 3 cards. But if you have the X antibody or Beelzemon underneath, you can delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon instead. Keep in mind, you can sequence these effects based on your choice, meaning you could trash first, then if you happen to trash the X antibody, you can return it to your hand. However, based on my interpretation of the effect, if your opponent has a level 4 or lower Digimon and you have a Beelzemon or X antibody in the sources, you must delete the level 4 or lower instead of trashing. I do not see a may condition here, but I could be wrong. Beelzemon on the other hand, when Digivolving, trashes the top 3 cards and gives you a persisting on deletion effect, that if you have 10 or more cards in your trash, you may play 1 Beelzemon from trash without paying its cost until the end of your opponent's turn when this Digimon is deleted. While this effect is only temporary, this does also protect against Digimon that de-Digivolve. You could utilize the BT10 Beelzemon because the effect is persisting all the time. But I'm leaning more towards conditional because de-Digivolve may be crucial in the upcoming set. But the deck wouldn't be trash worthy without Beelzemon. While he's not solo in this build, there are many variants you can run in the deck. Some opt for others, and others use every variant. Through testing, I think 2 BT12 X antibody Beelzemons is a sweet spot so far. You just need one of these to Digivolve into, trash your opponent's security, and then attack for game. At times you might be able to go into the perfect combo and trash 2 to 3 security and then Beelzemon X, hits for game. EX2 Beelzemon, some players don't want to play. This is a more controlled trashing of your deck, as all of its effects are optional May. But when it's trashed, you can get an Impmon from trash back out. Although you may fear Raid War Greymon, also remember, this effect is also May. The only other Beelzemon I run in the deck is Starter Deck 14 Beelzemon. This Digimon's effects are mandatory, but could provide you the trash necessary to trash not 2, not 3, but 4 security if you go into Beelzemon X after you recover memory. This deck only runs one copy of Beelzemon Blast Mode from the new starter deck. While it can be used in OG ways to take the game, it's not your primary hitter anymore. After all, Beelzemon X does all the heavy lifting when it comes to trashing security. Although you could utilize more than one, remember, you have a variety of ways you can return cards back to your hand. Which takes me to the option cards. This deck runs 10 in the form of 4 Deathslingers for extra memory when it's trashed, or also generic removal. 1 7th cluster for the deletion of one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level, and the fact that you can utilize this when Digivolving into Beelzemon X Antibody. Rivals Barrage, which deletes the highest level Digimon, or in the case it's trashed, it plays itself onto the battlefield and can delay and grab a purple Digimon or Tamer back from trash to hand. There are a lot of security bombs you could hit, which are advantages that could help you later down the line. Needing Beelzemon X? Grab it back with this card. Players may tailor the ratios differently, opting no 7th full cluster altogether, or even just going with 4 Rivals Barrage. But X Antibody fulfills the last role as you can utilize it with some insane combos, which I'll go over here in a little bit. And finally, Tamer-wise, you just run 4 of the starter deck Iron Mako. My initial impressions of this card to me were weak, but boy, was I wrong. This card is amazing in the X variant in that you can literally search anything. Also RNG? Not really. This Tamer allows for better manipulation of what goes on top of your security. Its on-play effect lets you search for any card in your deck minus option card and Tamers. Impmons are evil traits, Wizardmon, Witchmon, and Balmon are all wizards, and of course, Beelzemon are demon lords. But when you Digivolve outside of the raids, you can suspend this Tamer to return 1 card from your hand after you draw for the Digivolve, then gain 1 memory. In essence, you can set up cards like Rivals Barrage for next turn, or even cards like Wizardmon and Deathslinger for more memory. This card has also seen some use with Ophanimon decks for the fact that you can guarantee manipulate the top to put whatever card from hand into security. Strengths and weakness wise, this deck has the amazing strength of being very fast for setup and the kill. Honestly, a lot of the weaknesses from the release of Starter Deck 14 were heavily eliminated with more trash mechanics in the form of Wizardmon X, Impmon X, and Balmon X. And with 4 Iron Mako, consistency is huge. Even with the addition of mulligans, you can potentially pull for better hands. My personal favorites being double BT2 Impmon on turn 1. Only one problem with the deck so far is the fact that a blocker could be the one thing that messes you up. Raid War Greymon has a lot of protection that you'll want to be creative or make ways that it just gets deleted. In addition, with the Crossheart and Hunters being popular and cheap decks, your Impmon may not be deleted as easily. Weakness wise, there are cards that trash that are mandatory, in the case of the X-Line and BT2 Impmon. And then there are the optional cards like EX2 Beelzemon that you may or may not trash, and EX2 Impmon that can trash up to 3. You might sequence appropriately that you trash even more, depending on how you've set up the top of your deck with Iron Mako. Combo-wise, your best keep hand is anything with a double BT2 Impmon. Even a single BT2 Impmon is enough for me to keep the hand, because in doing so this sets you up for potentially 11 cards in trash by turn 2 and 2 chip damage. On your next turn you could set up the Starter Deck 14 Impmon play, because once you push this out, if you slot the X Antibody underneath it, if you have more than 20 cards in trash and a Starter Deck Beelzemon in trash, you could attack with Impmon, warp into Beelzemon for 3, trash 4 cards, and then gain 2 memory and a +1 security check. But wait, the X Antibody can now trigger and Digivolve that warped Beelzemon into a Beelzemon X for a cost of 1. So at 20 cards you can trash the top 2 security and check 2 with this single attack. If Blast Mode is in hand, that's a Digivolve for game right there. Beelzemon is going to be one of the serious contenders in the upcoming format, and while players may focus on the linear stack build or a wider building variant, both versions of the deck will see a lot of competitive play, due to its relative cheapness and effectiveness in the meta. But what are your thoughts? What would you change? Let me know your thoughts, and as always, thank you so much for your support. This is Digi-Panda, logging out.